My name is Vera Sloan. My husband told me he wanted a divorce, handed me a lawyer's card, and said I should try not to embarrass myself. He forgot two things. I drafted the clause he was trying to escape, and the first document in his lawyer's file proved his affair had already triggered it. He told me over breakfast, not during a fight, not after some dramatic discovery, not with tears or a shaking voice. Graham sat across from me at the kitchen island, buttered toast with the calm precision of a man preparing a quarterly report, and said, "I want a divorce." I looked up from my coffee. "Good morning to you, too." He sighed like I had already disappointed the conversation. "Vera, do not make this ugly." That sentence told me more than the divorce did. People who plan to be fair do not usually begin by warning you not to react. We had been married 9 years. Graham owned a regional logistics company. I worked as a contract attorney, mostly boring work by his standards. Vendor agreements, employment policies, compliance reviews, contract cleanup after executives discovered optimism was not a legal strategy. He used to call my work careful. In the last 2 years, he called it small. He had become louder as his company grew. Louder suits, louder watch, louder opinions about what kind of wife belonged beside him at events. I did not become smaller, but I did become quieter, not submissive, observant. Observation is what people mistake for weakness when they are used to applause. Graham pushed a business card across the island. "Miles Redding, Family Law." "Speak to Miles," he said. "He will explain the process." "Your lawyer?" "Our divorce lawyer." "That is not a thing." He gave a little laugh. "There, that tone. Try not to embarrass yourself with him." I picked up the card. "Why Miles?" "He is excellent." "Did he tell you that?" Graham's mouth tightened. "I have already retained him. He knows the situation. I want this clean. You can keep the house for a while if you cooperate." For a while. The house was mine before him, but I let that sentence sit. The best cross-examination does not interrupt too early. "And what is the situation?" I asked. He looked almost relieved, like we had reached the part he rehearsed. "We have grown apart. I need a partner who supports my life, someone more aligned with where I am going." "Does she have a name?" His eyes flickered. "Small, fast, enough." "This is not about another woman." "Then it should be easy to say there is not one." He stood, taking his plate to the sink, though he had eaten only half the toast. "Talk to Miles." "I will." He paused at the doorway. "Good. And Vera, do not try to weaponize that old prenup. It is outdated." There it was, the clause. 9 years earlier, before the wedding, Graham's father insisted on a prenuptial agreement to protect the company. I was the one who asked for mutual terms. If his business growth during the marriage was protected, my separate property would be protected too. If either spouse committed documented adultery and used marital funds to support the affair, the injured spouse would receive an enhanced property settlement and reimbursement. Graham laughed at the clause when we signed. "We will never need that," he said. Back then, I believed him. Now he was telling me not to weaponize it. That afternoon, I called Miles Redding's office and scheduled the meeting Graham wanted. The receptionist gave me Thursday at 10. Then I did what I do for a living. I built a file. Not from hacking, not from drama, from documents already in my reach as a spouse, homeowner, and joint account holder. Credit card statements. Hotel charges in Charleston on weekends. Graham claimed to be inspecting warehouse sites. 2 airline upgrades. Restaurant receipts for tasting menus he would never attend alone. A necklace from Belmaris Jewelers charged to the marital card and never given to me. Then there were the messages. Graham had synced his tablet to the family desktop years ago and forgotten. I did not read every word. I did not need to. The thread with a woman named Elodie March contained enough. "Can't wait until the house is ours. Vera will fold once Miles explains." After the divorce, I want the blue bedroom as my office. The blue bedroom was where my mother slept during chemo. I printed that page first. Thursday morning, I wore a charcoal suit and carried a black folder. Miles Redding's office was on the 12th floor of a glass building downtown. His receptionist offered sparkling water. I declined because my hands were steady and I wanted them empty. Miles came out personally. He was mid-40s, polished, expensive haircut, cautious eyes. Good lawyers learn caution, or they become stories other lawyers tell at conferences. "Mrs. Sloan," he said, "thank you for coming." "Miss Sloan is fine," he nodded once. He had already learned something. In his conference room, he began with a practice speech about dignity, efficiency, the emotional cost of contested divorce, and Graham's desire for a fair resolution. I let him finish. Then I asked, "Did Graham tell you about the infidelity clause?" Miles paused. He provided the prenuptial agreement. Did he provide the affair documentation? The pause was longer this time. I am not sure what documentation you mean. I opened my folder. Hotel charges, joint credit card statements, travel records, gift receipt, message thread, use of marital funds, timeline. I placed the documents on the table in 4 neat stacks. Miles did not touch them immediately. Ms. Sloan, are you represented? Not yet. You should be. I know. That was the moment he understood I was not there to be talked down. He put on reading glasses and reviewed the first page, then the second, then the messages. When he reached the blue bedroom line, his expression changed in a way he probably tried to control. Did my husband tell you the house was marital property? I asked. Miles looked up slowly. He characterized it as the marital residence. That is not the same thing. No, he said, it is not. I slid over the deed. Purchased by Vera Sloan 3 years before marriage. Separate property. No refinance, no title transfer, no commingling beyond routine maintenance. Then I slid over the prenup page. Clause 14. Infidelity with marital expenditure. Miles read it twice. Who drafted this clause? I did. He looked at me over the paper. You are an attorney. Contracts, not family law. Still, I agreed. He leaned back. I need to be very clear. I represent Graham. I know. Based on what you have shown me, I may have been given incomplete information. Yes. I cannot advise you. I did not ask you to. That was the first time he almost smiled. What do you want from this meeting, Ms. Sloan? Confirmation that you have seen the documents Graham told me not to weaponize. That is a dangerous verb. He chose it. Miles gathered the documents carefully. May I copy these? No, you may review them. My counsel will send copies once retained. That is wise. He closed Graham's file, literally, the beige folder on the table. He placed both hands on it and said, I will be speaking with my client about representation. Meaning? Meaning there may be a material conflict between the facts provided and the strategy requested. I stood. Thank you for your time. As I reached the door, Miles said, Miss Sloan? I turned. Do retain counsel quickly. Already scheduled for 2. His second, almost smile was better than the first. Graham called at 11:34. I was in the parking garage, sitting in my car, letting the silence settle. His name flashed on my screen. I answered on speaker. What did you say to Miles? Good morning, Graham. Do not play with me. He just called and said he cannot proceed until I provide accurate disclosures. Sounds responsible. What did you give him? A preview. His breathing changed. You went through my private messages. You synced them to the family computer. That is illegal. Tell your next lawyer. You think you are clever. No, I think I am documented. He went quiet, then softer. Vera, we can still keep this respectful. There it was, respectful. The word men use when consequences start wearing shoes. All communication through counsel, I said. You do not have counsel. 2 o'clock. I hung up. My lawyer, Renata Pike, was not warm. That is why I liked her. Warmth is lovely in friends and dangerous in attorneys if it gets in the way of clean advice. She read my file and said, Your husband has mistaken confidence for position. That sounds accurate. We will correct him. Renata filed first. That surprised Graham. It should not have. He gave me the card. He told me to speak to a lawyer. I simply kept going after his stopped being useful to him. The divorce took 7 months. Graham tried 3 different attorneys. The first withdrew. The second advised settlement after seeing the clause. The third tried to argue that the affair began after emotional separation and that the expenditures were business-related. Renata answered with dates, receipts, and the message where Elodie asked whether the Charleston Hotel had the ocean view room again. The mediator read that line and removed his glasses. Graham stared at the table. I did not feel triumph then. I felt tired. People imagine revenge as a bright, clean fire. Most of the time, it is fluorescent lighting, legal pads, and hearing the person who hurt you argue about whether the necklace he bought another woman counts as marital spending. It counted. The settlement gave me the house, which was already mine, without challenge. It gave me reimbursement under Clause 14. It gave me a larger share of liquid marital assets than Graham expected. It required him to pay part of my legal fees because he had failed to disclose relevant facts in early negotiation. Elodie did not move into the blue bedroom. She left him before the final order. I know because she sent me one message from an unknown number. He told me you were cold and greedy. He did not tell me about the clause. I am sorry. I did not answer. Not every apology needs a recipient. After the divorce, I painted the blue bedroom green. Not because Elodie mentioned it, because my mother loved green and because I was tired of rooms becoming evidence. Renata said that was healthy. My therapist said it was progress. My aunt said the old blue was ugly anyway. All three were right. Graham emailed once after the final order. Subject: could we talk? Vera, I handled everything badly. I let pride and resentment guide me. I hope someday you understand I felt invisible in our marriage too. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Maybe he had felt invisible. Maybe I had too. But invisibility does not sign hotel receipts. Loneliness does not buy necklaces. Resentment does not entitle you to invite a lawyer into a lie and call your wife embarrassing for reading the contract you signed. I replied with one line: future communication through counsel, unless legally unnecessary. Then I archived the thread. The part nobody tells you about a public betrayal is how many private rooms it creates afterward. There was the bank office where I removed Graham from the household management account he had treated like a joint confession booth. There was the insurance call where the representative kept saying, "spousal transition," in a voice so gentle I almost hated her. There was the Saturday morning when I opened the linen closet and found the spare key to the Charleston hotel room clipped to a loyalty tag with another woman's initials written on the back. Every small discovery tried to reopen the case in my chest. Renata told me to keep a log. Not because every item will be legally useful, she said, because memory becomes fog when someone has spent years calling you unreasonable. So I wrote things down. Hotel key found in linen closet, March 4th. Dinner reservation under business development, matched to Elodie's birthday. Text from Graham: you are making this uglier than it needs to be. I almost replied to that one. I wanted to say that ugly was not the document. Ugly was the lie underneath it. Ugly was a man who invited his wife into an office, told her not to embarrass herself, and expected the lawyer's letterhead to do what his wedding vows no longer could. Renata stopped me. Do not feed the record unless you have to. That became a rule for my whole life. Do not feed the record unless you have to. Graham did not understand silence when it no longer belonged to him. He had liked me quiet when quiet meant I was absorbing his version of events. He did not like quiet when it meant I was organized. 3 weeks after mediation began, he arrived at the house while I was sorting tax documents at the dining table. He still had a key. I had forgotten one lock on the side entrance. We need to talk without lawyers, he said. I stood but did not move toward him. You need to leave. This is still my home. The temporary order says otherwise. He laughed, but his eyes went to the folders. You and your folders. Yes. Do you think paper makes you righteous? No, it makes you specific. He walked to the table and picked up the Charleston receipt. This is what you want to build your life around? Receipts? I took it from his hand. I am rebuilding my life around reality. That was when he said the thing that finally removed the last soft place I had been protecting for him. You were easier when you did not know how the money worked. For a second, I saw our marriage from a distance. Not the vacations, not the dinners, not the photographs where we looked like people who knew where to stand. I saw the account access he had insisted on managing because I was too busy. I saw the business dinners he told me were networking, the credit card autopay, the accountant he chose because he was efficient. I saw how much of his confidence had depended on my convenience. Leave, I said. He did not. So I called Renata on speaker. She answered on the second ring. Is he inside the house? Graham's face changed. Vera, Renata said, Mr. Hale, this is your formal warning that you are violating the temporary exclusive use order. Exit now, or I will advise my client to call law enforcement and file for sanctions. He looked at me as if I had brought a weapon to a conversation. I had. It was called a court order. He left. The next day, his attorney sent a letter claiming he had only entered to retrieve personal property. Renata responded with the security camera clip and a list of approved retrieval procedures. That letter cost him more in credibility than in money, which bothered him more. The sanctions hearing was the first time I saw a judge read Graham correctly in under 5 minutes. He wore his best navy suit. He spoke softly. He used phrases like communication breakdown and emotional volatility. Then Renata played the clip where he said I was easier when I did not know how the money worked. The courtroom went quiet. The judge asked, "Mr. Hale, what did you mean by that?" Graham opened his mouth, then closed it. His lawyer answered for him. "Your Honor, my client was speaking in distress." The judge looked at the order, then at Graham. Distress does not create a license to enter a residence assigned to the other party. The sanction was modest. Legal fees for the motion. A clearer property retrieval schedule. A warning. But the warning mattered. It moved the story from my word against his charm into a court record. After that, Graham's tone changed. He stopped writing long emails about healing. He started writing short emails about documents. That was healthier for both of us. Elodie reappeared once more, not in person, through a package. Inside was a small velvet box and a note. I found this in Graham's apartment after I ended things. He said it was paid for with his bonus, but the receipt says otherwise. I do not want it. The necklace was delicate, expensive, and completely meaningless to me except for the account number on the receipt. Renata added it to the reimbursement schedule. I mailed the necklace to Graham's attorney with a 2-line inventory. I did not write to Elodie. I did not thank her. I did not punish her. I let the document become what it was, one more proof that the money trail had reached farther than Graham admitted. The strangest meeting happened near the end. Our accountant, Mr. Bell, came in for a deposition. He was the one Graham always praised as discreet. I expected him to be defensive. Instead, he arrived with a file and the exhausted expression of a man who had been waiting for adults to ask adult questions. Renata asked when he first noticed the charges. About 18 months before separation. Did you alert Mrs. Hale? No. Why not? He looked at Graham. Mr. Hale told me she was aware and preferred not to discuss personal matters by email. I felt heat rise in my face. Renata gave him another page. Did you verify that? No. Why? He swallowed. Because Mr. Hale was my point of contact. There it was again, the invisible structure. Not one giant conspiracy, 100 small conveniences arranged around the person who spoke first. After the deposition, Mr. Bell waited in the hallway. Mrs. Hale, he said, I should have confirmed. Yes. I am sorry. Put it in writing. He blinked. I said it gently, but I meant it. If you are sorry for a professional failure, put it in writing. He did. Renata used the statement to support our fee request. I used it for something else. I used it to stop wondering whether I had missed something because I was foolish. I had missed things because people around Graham accepted his authority over my reality. That distinction saved me from a shame that did not belong to me. My life is quieter now. Quiet does not mean empty. Quiet means no one is narrating my worth while spending joint money on someone else. Quiet means I can drink coffee at the kitchen island without bracing for a business card sliding across the stone. Quiet means I know exactly where my documents are. Sometimes I think about Miles Redding closing that file. That was the moment the story turned. Not because he saved me. He did not. I saved myself by bringing the paper trail. But his closed folder told me something important. Even the lawyer my husband hired could see the difference between strategy and fraud. That is my story. My husband told me to speak to his lawyer because he thought I would be intimidated by the room. I spoke to him with receipts, and the file closed before my husband understood the meeting had gone exactly as I needed. If someone tells you not to embarrass yourself before you have even answered, bring the documents. Let the paper do the talking.